Isaac Newton was born on December 25, 1642, in Woolsthorpe by Colsterworth, England. Newton was born prematurely, and it is very likely that he suffered from Asperger's syndrome. His father was Isaac Newton Sr., a farmer who died 3 months before he was born. His mother remarried when he was 3 and sent him to live with his grandmother. Being cast out made him mad, and when he was 19, he confessed to having homicidal thoughts toward his mother and stepfather. Isaac Newton lived during the period of time known as the Enlightenment, which had a huge focus on gaining knowledge in science and mathematics. It lasted from the late 1600s to the early 1800s. During the Enlightenment, scientists and mathematicians would question ancient scientists such as Plato and Aristotle. These scientists focused on either improving or correcting the ancient theories. From when he was 12 until he was 17, Isaac Newton went to the King's School in Grantham, England. His signature can still be seen scratched into the woodwork. While he was there, Isaac Newton studied math and science vigorously. He was removed from school by his mother to work as a farmer, but the school's headmaster brought him back to complete his education. When he returned, he was so motivated for revenge against a school bully that he focused all of his attention on becoming the top-ranked student. Newton went to the Trinity College in Cambridge, England. He was an unorthodox Christian, and at that time you had to become a priest if you went to that college. Newton kept delaying his becoming a priest, and eventually the king let him graduate without becoming one. Before being the scientist that we know today, Newton was a mathematician. He came up with infinitesimal calculus and binomial series. In fact, Newton did most of his mathematical studies before getting involved in physics and science. He did most of his scientific research while he was in his 30s, and even after that. He did not come up with his most famous theories, like his theories on gravity, until he was middle-aged. When Newton became a senior citizen, he started working on literal interpretations of the Bible. He became a member of the British Parliament, but he didn't contribute much. He was warden of the Royal Mint for a while, and he was even knighted by Queen Anne. When he got sick from mercury poisoning, he moved in with his niece and her husband in Kensington. He died in his sleep on March 20, 1727, and he was buried in Westminster Abbey. He was 84. Newton's impact on the world of science was that he came up with the notion that Earth and the planets weren't the only things that had gravity. Even something small, like an apple, had gravity. The Earth was as much drawn to the apple as the apple was to the Earth. But since the Earth is bigger, it appeared that the apple was falling towards the Earth. He came up with the laws of motion, which revolutionized physics. He influenced Swiss mathematician and scientist Nicolas Fachio de Delisle and English mathematician John Keill in their work. Newton's most famous experiments and studies include binomial series, infinitesimal calculus, optics, universal gravitation, and Newtonian mechanics. He was known for his studies on ethers and particles, forces, and motion. Newton's most famous hypothesis was his hypothesis of light. In 1675, Newton proposed that substance, now known as ether, existed in space to transmit forces and vibrations between particles. His most famous theory was the universal gravitation theory. This theory stated that terrestrial gravity extends in an inverse square proportion to the moon, and that the Earth's gravity was what held the moon in orbit. This is a theory which he partially came up with because of the Apple incident, which in fact did not hit his head. Speaking of the Apple incident, no one is really certain what exactly happened. Any witnesses who gave their version of the story disagreed with each other as to how it happened. The only thing we do know is that an apple fell, and Newton started thinking about gravity. Newton is obviously most famous for his laws of motion. These laws proved Aristotle wrong because Aristotle stated that a force needed to act in order to keep an object in motion, not to change its motion. Newton's first law is that an object in motion will stay in motion unless acted upon by an outside force. His second law is that an object's force equals its mass times its acceleration. His third law is that every action has an equal or opposite reaction. These laws, theories, and hypotheses have revolutionized the world of physics, and that is why Newton is one of the most well-known scientists in the world.